Hi, my name is Enrique and I am going to show you how to make Cuban black beans. A little background, my family immigrated from Cuba in 1963 to the United States. We landed in Miami, Florida, but after 2 years, my father was fortunate to meet some great friends who recommended that he move all the way across the country to Portland, Oregon. And Dad, really grateful that you made that decision. So here I am. I'm gonna make Cuban black beans. It's based on my mother's recipe. Now, just because I am Cuban and I'm making Cuban black beans doesn't mean that it is the greatest recipe of all or whatever. All Cuban families have a different twist on it, and lots of people make black beans. So there's no golden rule on how to do it. I'm just gonna show you how we do it, all right? Also, I just want to dedicate this video to all my friends who've always asked me, hey, Enrique, when are you going to show me how to make those Cuban black beans? And so now I'm finally going to do it. And I want to dedicate this video actually to the daughter of some really good friends of ours named Lenora, who loves my beans. And so I'm hopefully she'll be able to watch this and make them for her parents. And then also I want to dedicate it to a friend Shelly and her daughter June, who also love my Cuban black beans. Let's get started. Okay, let's go down the list of ingredients that you're going to need to make your Cuban black beans. Usually before I start cooking, I like to get all my ingredients measured, chopped, whatever I need, and have them kind of standing by, right, when I'm working with a hot stove and I'm working with a pressure cooker. Let's get started. After these ingredients, actually, I'm gonna have a little card come up that'll have all the ingredients that you'll need to make the Cuban black beans. So, starting with 1 pound of black beans, 10 cups of water, 2 green peppers, 2/3 cup olive oil, 1 large onion, 4 garlic cloves. I usually use 6 or 7. 4 teaspoons of salt, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, 1/4 teaspoon of oregano, 1 bay leaf. If they're too small bay leaves, I use 2. 2 tablespoons of vinegar, and 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Okay, and then next you'll see a card with all the ingredients. Now you can use a pressure cooker. Some people are using Instapots. I have an Instapot. I never use it because I just really don't understand the instructions, and it has so many buttons. And I wish someone would create an Instapot that works like a pressure cooker, right? You know how many minutes you need to cook it, and you know what temperature you want. So it would be great if they had an Instapot with a recipe book and that said, you know, if you want to make rice, set it to level 5 for 20 minutes, right? If you want to make soup, set it to level 7 for 2 hours. Something like that. That would be so much easier than all these different buttons that say rice, fish, soup, whatever. That's just my opinion. Take it or leave it. But I grew up with a pressure cooker in the kitchen, and a lot of Cubans still cook with a pressure cooker. What I love about a pressure cooker, it cooks quickly, right? So you can use a Dutch oven if you want to just cook the beans on the oven, but that's going to take, you know, several hours and stuff to soften the beans. So the very first thing you do the night before you start your Cuban black beans is you take your 1 pound of black beans, you'll wash them, okay, just rinse them out, and you put them in the pressure cooker, and you add 10 cups of water, and then you take one of the green peppers, you cut it in half, and kind of like this, some long strands like this, and you take that half and you put it in the water with the black beans overnight, and you let the beans soak overnight so they soften up, right? We all know that technique. So then in the morning, right, you get ready to cook your black beans in the pressure cooker. Okay, so before we put the pressure cooker lid on, here's a pressure cooker lid, here's your seal. For those of you not familiar with the pressure cooker, make the seals on, okay, and then you have this little device. I really don't know what the name is, but the steam will come out of here and this will kind of go right? And but before we do all this, in here we have the black beans, we have the 10 cups of water. I'm going to bring it up to a boil, and then as the beans boil, they're going to release kind of this white foam, and let me kind of show you what it looks like. And see, it's kind of these, it'll bubble up, and I'll have this like white foam here, if you can see that. Okay, so I let that boil out. My mom says the white foam is kind of like the beans getting rid of any kind of extra gas, or who knows, carbon monoxide, I don't know. But it does help, right? If you do this, you kind of scoop it out once it gets boiling. You'll scoop out that foam and, throw it into the sink, and supposedly it lowers the, the gaseous results of eating black beans. Okay? And that's what we do it. And, I have to say it works. Okay? So I'm going to let that boil here for a second. And when it starts to really get going, I'll scoop it out, and then we'll put the lid on. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so you can see how it starts to kind of boil, and this kind of soft foam rises. Like my mom used to say, espuma foam. And now we're going to just scoop that out, and once we scoop it out, I'll put on the lid. So you can see, you just scoop it out, and this, legend has it, is removing the gas, or maybe some kind of carbon in the beans, who knows. If you have a scientist friend, I'm sure someone can explain what this is. So we just take a little out, as much as we can, and then we'll put the lid in. Okay. Okay, so you saw how I was kind of scooping out some of the foam. I gave you a little close-up so you can kind of see what that's like. And once this water really gets boiling and the foam starts rising out of it, you like to scoop it out, give it a good stir here, make sure the beans aren't sticking at the bottom here. Right, here we go. And now I'm going to put on the pressure cooker. Make sure it has its seal on tight. Okay, and let's get going. Now this little red knob here will rise up. I think a Nova or those guys have a little thing that, not a Nova, but the electric pressure cookers, have also some indicator that pressure is building inside the pressure cooker. So there we go. So pressure is already built, and now we're going to wait for this little knob here to do a little dance for us. And once we start hearing that right sound, I can't really define it, but you'll hear it, then we'll get going and set a timer. Okay? and I'll be back to show you what that sounds like on a pressure cooker. That sound, okay? We don't want it to go because it means that's way too hot. We don't want it to go. It's really, and you'll hear it. All right, I'll get back to it. Bye. Okay, so now the pressure cooker, you can see this little thing is doing its dance. I'm right about kind of medium heat here on an electric hot surface oven. It's between 4 and 2. And now I'm getting that nice consistent little dance there. And I will now cook it for 30 minutes. And when it's ready, I will come back and I'll teach you how to open it up. Okay? Yeah, just enjoy the dance. Okay, so my pressure cooker has been cooking the black beans for about 20 to 30 minutes. I usually do 30. And now in order to take the lid off, you don't just pull it off. There's a lot of pressure inside a pressure cooker built up, right? If I try to pull it off, it could just blow up in my face. So this has a safety valve right here. I press it and you can see the steam comes out. And if you want, you can press this till all the steam comes out. Once it all comes out and this little thing falls back down, then you know it's safe to open it. A way to do it a little faster is I pour cold water while I also let some steam out. And so now I'm just pouring some cold water, and already I can feel it releasing. And do a little, there's your pressure. Pressure comes down pretty fast. So as you pour cold water, you know, it has an effect and the pressure just goes down. I'm now pressing on the press release button as much as I can. This should go down and stay down, see? So it means there's no pressure. Now I can safely open it. And now I've opened up the pot. And here are the black beans. And now we'll move back to the oven and we're gonna start the sofrito. Okay, so now, you know, I took the lid off the pressure cooker. My black beans are right here. I'm just gonna give it a little stir and stuff. The beans should feel soft, you know, if you grab a bean, you can kind of crush it pretty easy. That means they're cooked. And I'm just gonna stir it. And now I'm just gonna kind of keep the pot open like this. I'm gonna set it to a little kind of simmer, so the way it cooks a little more of the water out, okay? So, you know, everyone likes a different consistency in their black beans. Some like them a little watery, some like them really thick. I kind of like it, you know, in between, if I can reach that. There's no exact science, you just kind of eyeball it. So I'll just let that cook, and as the water evaporates, and then if I feel I need to take some water out, it's okay. I can just take a spoon, take some more water out of it. And then what I do with that water is I keep it aside. You know, it'll be this kind of black bean water. I'll keep it on the side. So if I feel I need to thicken it up or whatever, I can add a little more to it. It's no big deal. All right, so now we're gonna make the sofrito, okay? Now, probably 99% of Cuban meals have a sofrito. And it basically is onion, pepper, garlic, and then also maybe a roasted, some roasted pepper and stuff. Within that, we'll use the oregano, the black pepper, and we'll get that going. So one of the things you gotta do is crush your garlic. So I have a little mortar and pestle. I'm gonna grab a little salt here. Make sure to keep your salt and sugar separate. Okay, here's my sugar there. Sugar comes in at the end. So I throw in a little salt there just to give the garlic and my mortar and pestle something to kind of grab and crunch. So now I'm just gonna crunch this pretty quick. And then as I'm crushing this, I'm going to add my 2/3 cup of oil right here to the pan. And I'm gonna bring this up to heat. And I'm just gonna set it on kind of medium. This electric is between 4 and 6 is medium. So remember, I'm heating the sofrito here. This is the olive oil. Got the black beans there going, just kind of cooking out some of that extra water. And now I gotta crush these garlic cloves. Oh, and if you have kids, you know, they're of age, you can always have your kids do this. They'll get a kick out of it. It's just fun crushing things, right? Okay. So, now, some people just put in the garlic cloves first, and then I'm going to add the remainder of the green pepper that I used in here, right? So I put half a green pepper to soak with the black beans overnight in the 10 cups of water, and then the other half of the green pepper I've chopped up, and we're going to use that for the sofrito. Now, remember, in the recipe, it's 2 green peppers. So the other green pepper I roasted, okay? And that's where you kind of blacken the exterior of the pepper. And you can do this on the stove top if you have a gas stove. You can do it in the oven, put it on broil, however way you do it. Then you kind of just peel off, when it gets blackened, you peel off the top of the layer and put it in a brown bag or something that you can close so it'll sweat. And then when that's done, you have it, you just chop it up, and we're going to use that in the sofrito. Okay. Now, in order for me to kind of tell if this is getting hot, I throw in a little onion here, and once it starts to kind of bubble up, I'll add the ingredients. Okay, I'm going to turn this on high to get this going a little more. I'm going to stir the black beans once. But you don't want, this is metal, and so you want to make sure it's not sticking towards the bottom. That's why I like to have it kind of have a little more liquid than usual, at first. That way I can kind of watch it, get it down to the consistency that I want. And now the sofrito is starting to cook up here. Once this is cooking down and stuff, what we can add directly to the black beans is we can add the salt, we can add the bay leaves, which is right here. See, these are 2 kind of smaller bay leaves. I'm gonna add the bay leaves there. I'm gonna take the salt, which is 4 teaspoons. I'm gonna add it to the beans, stir it in. And I'm gonna wait for this to get going. Okay, so now we're getting this a little hot. I added, just directly to this, I added the 4 teaspoons of salt and added the 2 bay leaf. And I can also take my spoon of sugar and add it. And if I want to, stir that in, let it cook down. That's the tablespoon of sugar that I added. So that's, you know, starting to cook there. Now I'm getting this where I want it. I'm gonna get a little scoop device here, and I'm gonna add the garlic to the sofrito, and you're gonna see it fry. Okay. Looks like to add the garlic first. You know, garlic takes a little bit longer to cook. You don't want to burn the garlic, right? So just add it a little first. You know, stir it around there a little bit. You guys can see that. Stir up the garlic. Then you want to turn down the temperature. I'm turning it down to about medium. And kind of control it a little better. So now to that, I'm going to add the onion. Now the thing with the sofritos, you really want to give it, you know, you really want to cook it, right? You want the onions to be clear. You want the green peppers to be softened up. And so usually it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to cook this. Once you get good at cooking and stuff, sometimes you can make the sofrito while the pressure cooker is working if you like. You can do that. But for the purpose of the video, I wanted to separate that so you guys kind of understand it a little better. So we got the sofrito going here. This is half a green pepper, 1 whole onion, and 4 cloves of garlic, but I put in 7 because I like garlic. So now I'll put in the roasted pepper, and I'll mix that in too. Once you get a good sofrito going in the house, you know, my kids, especially my daughter who loves black beans, the minute she walks in, she just loves that smell, right? You know, smell of garlic cooking with onions. And it's just a wonderful fragrance throughout the house. Okay, I have my half a teaspoon of black pepper. I'll pour that in there. Cook that in, mix that in. And again, sofritos are what you use for just, you know, a majority of Cuban dishes. If you make a sopa de garbanzo, you'll have a sofrito. And so it's pretty much the same base. If you make picadillo, you know, you'll use the base, but you'll cook it actually you'll add tomato sauce to it. And the beef and all that for the picadillo, but basically you're going to have peppers, you're going to have onions, you're going to have garlic, salt, and black pepper. So let's let that cook a bit. Here's the oregano, and that's a 1/4 teaspoon of oregano. And let's cook it. So usually, you know, when I'm not making a video, you can pretty much, if you have everything prepared, cook black beans in about an hour to an hour and a half. But that's, you know, when you have the experience to kind of keep an eye on everything, make sure it's cooking. Okay, so one of the things like my friends always say is they go, wow, how do you get that consistency in your black beans? They're always kind of creamy and all that kind of stuff. And so the way you do that is we're going to take out a little bit of the black beans, right? So out of that pound that's cooking there, I'm going to take like 2 scoops in a ladle, okay? I'm going to Try to grab it without the peppers on it. Let the water out as much as I can. Okay, so here's a scoop of the beans in the ladle. I'm going to add it here to my mortar and pestle. I'm going to grab another one and let the water out. I'm going to add it to my mortar and pestle. And then slowly, you lower this down just a little bit. Again, you don't want to burn, you don't want a burnt flavor in it. You just want to keep it cooking it down. Okay, so now I'm going to crush these soft black beans with the mortar and pestle. And so what this does is it gives you kind of another texture, right? We have the whole beans in there with the water. I'm going to add this and give it another texture. I'm going to mash these so you get that kind of creamy black bean consistency. So you have kind of a nice texture to it. And as I do that, I'll keep an eye on the sofrito. You can turn the temperature up a little bit on the beans here just to get that water boiled out. And as far as adding the 10 cups of water, you know, that's because I'm using a pressure cooker, right? It's going to let off steam and stuff. If you're using a Dutch oven or something else, you might discover a better amount of water to add. You might add 8 cups, you might add 11, whatever, you know, the technique you're using to cook the beans. So now I've gotten these pretty squished. Down. Nice paste. And I'm going to add this crushed bean to the sofrito. Okay? And I wish I knew the science about it, you know. My dream is to work like on a, forget that cooking show on public TV. I'll come up with it later, but it's a great cooking show. I think it's Cook's Country, County, whatever. I really like that show because they explain things so well. You know, good reviews of tools. Anyway, so now I'm going to add I'm adding the mashed beans here to the sofrito. Really stir it in, add a little more heat. And the great thing about black beans is once you get this recipe down, you can double it. You can cook 2 pounds, triple it, cook 3 pounds, you know, as long as you have the tools to hold that many beans. And it works, it'll still have the same flavor and stuff. So, you know, 2 pounds is something I cook when I know I'm going to have, you know, 15 people over the house, 10 to 15. 1 pound will generally serve, you know, 4 to 8. Depends how crazy my friends are for the black beans. I have friends who'll just pile it on. What you'll want to do is, you know, when we serve it Cuban style, you'll make white rice. So you'll put a little, you know, some white rice on a plate and you'll serve the black beans over it. Cubans love to mix their food, so we'll mix the black beans with the rice. And it's a great side dish, you know, if you're cooking pork chops or steak, really anything. Usually I serve it with tortilla española, which is, it's not a flat tortilla, you know, like in Mexican cuisine. Our tortilla is made of potatoes, it's thick, kind of like an omelet, basically. It's potatoes and onions. So I'm gonna let that cook a little bit. I'm gonna stir around here. And I could use this time to take some water out and stuff, but I'm gonna wait till I add actually all the ingredients to it and then see the consistency once everything is in the pot, okay? Once everything is in the pot, then you're just controlling the heat and deciding, okay, that's done, all right? And there's still a few little things that we're gonna do to add that kind of taste that makes these black beans unique. Okay, picking up where we left off, I have this sofrito. It's cooked down pretty good. You can kind of take a look at it right here, right? Add the crushed beans to it. It's got all the spices, the oregano, black pepper. It's got the 1/2 of the green pepper, the 1 whole onion, and the 4 cloves of garlic. But I like to put in 7. And now I'm gonna add it to the beans. Okay. Turn off the heat here. Let that cool off. You know, if you have a hot pan, especially a pan that's metal, don't just throw it in the sink and throw cold water on it. If it's a metal type of pan, it could warp or bend the pan. So always let it cool off on the oven. Once it's relatively cool, then you can move it and rinse it with some warm water and stuff. If it's metal, you want it to cool down a bit and then have the water warm. So when you do transfer it, the temperature is not so shocking to the metal itself. And it'll, you know, keep your pans longer. Okay. So now it's all stirred up in here. And I can either keep cooking it till it gets down to the consistency that I want, or I can take some of the water out. And I'm gonna opt, just for our sake right now, I'm gonna take some of the water out. And so I'm gonna kind of go like this. And I'm just taking the water out, not taking any onions or any peppers out. And I'll just put the water in here just to kind of lower it. And this is a technique, like if you just don't have the time, right? So if you don't have the time, you can take water out and you don't have to wait for it to evaporate. This actually tastes good. When I was a baby, you know, right? So I don't know, 1 to 5. My mom, when she make black beans, when she take the water out, this is actually a little, you know, this is nutritious, right? So she let it cool down a little bit. And then she'd give me little spoons of it. When I was old enough to sip it, I'd, you know, sip on it and stuff. And it's really good. I mean, it just tastes great like this. So I'm gonna stir it here. Take a little more water out. Okay. Okay, so that's about, let's see, a cup there, 2 cups. Give it a good stir. And then I'm gonna keep this water on the side. You know, sometimes I get distracted, right? Even though when you have an oven, don't get involved in something else, at least stay nearby. But I'll get distracted and I'll let it kind of cook down too much. If I do, then I have that water on the side and I can add a little water to get it just right. So now's the time where you want to add the vinegar. And for the vinegar, I just use an ordinary spoon. You add, the recipe is, you know, 2 tablespoons of vinegar. And so I will add the 2 tablespoons. Okay. Now here's the secret to adding vinegar. When people go, oh, what's that thing? Why your beans taste different? A lot of it is not just the ingredients. A lot of it is just adding that vinegar. Not adding a lot, but just enough that you just kind of taste the vinegar. What's really funny is a lot of kids, my kids, my friends and their kids love Cuban black beans. They just love it. They love it over rice. They love to eat it. And I think it's just that little bit of vinegar, that touch of something that takes the blandness out of just, beans in and of themselves, right? When you go to a restaurant or a fast food place and they go, oh, we have beans, and they don't have any flavor. The vinegar kind of adds this little unique flavor to it. That's kind of the signature, right? So again, I will taste it. Usually when my daughter's home, I'll have her taste it. She kind of always gives me the thumbs up. I trust her taste, and my wife. So hold on. Yeah, okay, that's really good. If I need to taste more of it, I'll add more vinegar, okay? I'm gonna let it cook down. Right now, I think it's just right. So as it cooks down, if I need a little more, I'll add a little spoon of vinegar, okay? It's okay to break the rules here and there because you're just trying to get that flavor that you grew up, in my house, right? That's all I have to go on is how did my mom make those beans? I'm always trying to recreate that flavor, and it's that flavor that brings back memories to me, to my siblings, and my family. And that's what kind of home cooking is all about, right? So I'm gonna let it cook. And then here's another little trick that my mom always loved to do. And when I was a kid, I thought it was kind of a game. But we have these little cocktail onions, right? And she'll add a couple of these to the black beans. And, some people will find it in the black beans and they'll just set it aside because, it's a cocktail onion. But I love cocktail onions. And my mom would always put in like 6 or 8. It just adds a little treat, a little bit of a kick if you find one to what you're doing. So I just add those. And then, even the juice of the cocktail onions, has a certain kind of flavor that adds to it. And now I'm just gonna let it cook down to the consistency that I want. And then when I get it to where I want, I'm going to serve it on a plate over rice for you so you can kind of see the consistency. Of course, you can't taste it, but trust me, they're pretty good. And again, this is for my friends. This is dedicated to Lenora. This is dedicated to Shelly and June, and I hope you guys enjoy it. All right, I'll be back with just the final serving of the plate. Okay, so now I have the black beans, are just cooking the water down, the sofritos in it, getting it to the consistency that I like. This is cooking about, anywhere from a half hour to an hour and a half, depending on what temperature you have and how often you stir it. And so usually when it's at this stage, you can turn the temperature down as long as it's boiling a little bit. Go do something else, listen to some music or whatever, talk to your friends. I also started the white rice here, my rice cooker. I like this one because it has a metal bowl, right? The inner lining is metal, which is nice, unlike other materials that might scratch and stuff. I also use this time to clean my kitchen, right? So I've already cleaned all the plates that I've used, all the bowls and stuff. I just have this one if I want to add a little vinegar. I have my little spoon here. But it's nice, to clean up while it's just boiling down. That way you can just enjoy your meal and you don't have to worry about cleaning up, right? Everything is nice and clean and you can just focus on your meal with your family and your friends. I'll be back with the final shot of the black beans over the white rice. Okay, as you can see, the consistency is getting a little better. It's not as watery. It's just about right for me, actually. The This is about where I like to be. Let me see if I use a ladle, if you can get a kind of a sense of it. Let's see how it's just nice, right? It's a nice consistency. So, you know, has some water in it, but the beans are thick, you know, so it's pretty good. While I wait for the white rice to make, I'll keep cooking it down just a little more. Okay, so now we just gotta scoop it up. I think I have the consistency that I want. And have some rice here. I'm just gonna take a little bit of rice, a little small serving, just so you guys can kind of see what it's like. There we go. Pour it over rice, and it's ready to eat. Again, it's really good. Goes good with any kind of sides, you know, whether you make some kind of vegetable main. You can have it with pork chops, chicken, and there you go, Cuban black beans. Enjoy. And I hope you guys have some time to make it yourselves at home and enjoy it with your family. Take care.